This follows a pair of Democratic congressmen sniffing for info on how these firms are spending their money on things like corporate retreats. Can Congress really demand this sort of thing from firms that really never received a dime of taxpayer money, never bailed out, never remotely helped out? When does a supposed fact-finding hunt turn into something worse, a witch hunt? Bill Wilson says this is more than that. It's Congress acting like a bunch of thugs. Bill, explain what's going on here. We should say you're for Americans for Limited Government. But, Bill, you're concerned this is just overreach, right?
Of course, Neil. This is these efforts are nothing more than a form of extortion.
So what would you do, Bill, if you were one of these CEOs who are bull running around with tail between their legs and they can't, they're afraid to pop their heads up?
It's terrifying.
What would you do?
Well, I mean, they're going to have to decide in each case whether or not they can comply or stand on their own 2 feet. I mean, they have obligations to their shareholders, to their customers. But what you've got here is with Henry Waxman, Jay Rockefeller. These are very powerful men who are following a playbook that has been used against business now over and over again. I mean, and it's a very simple 3-step. First you demonize, then you politicize, and then you go to nationalize. And that's what we saw on AIG. It's what we're seeing in the process now of the financial industry, and now they've turned their sights on the insurance industry.
Well, Bill, don't you think this would go away in a heartbeat if the insurance companies just wrote a check? In other words, did what the drug industry did to say, hey, we'll go along with this. We'll even start a $150 million ad campaign in support of this. And no one's writing letters to those guys. It's interesting, isn't it?
No, and look, that is the soft corruption that always comes when government gets involved in business. For example, one of the people who signed this letter with Henry Waxman was Congressman Bart Stupak.
Right.
Congressman Stupak's wife sits on the board of directors of Bay Center Medical. Stupak then sends an earmark, a special earmark of tax money to Bay Center Medical. And so the same thing with pharma, the same thing on a smaller scale with Stupak. What these people are saying is, bend to our will and we'll feed you a few crumbs. Don't, and we're coming after you. And unless the American people get involved and these companies stand strong together, they're going to pick them off.
Well, the problem with this industry in particular is it seems to have a uniquely bad press. You know what I mean? Even though most Americans will pull themselves, yeah, I like my health plan, it's okay, things are good. When you have the most powerful man in the world saying, someone was on the operating table and had their coverage yanked, or a pre-existing condition that wasn't covered, we can all relate to those kind of stories, even though, truth be told, they're actually a small percentage of the insurance stories. Nevertheless, it's the insurance guys who look like, evil, masters of the universe when they are faced with this type of bad press. How can they get out from their own bad press?
They've got to aggressively sell their product. They've got to go out and talk about the thousands of times that their efforts have helped cure someone or help someone find a condition prior to it becoming serious or dangerous. But
they're not doing that. But Bill, you know what? You hit the nail on the head time and again, Bill. But if I were one of these CEOs and I'm getting a letter, I would just say, dear Congressman, forget about it. CC the Internet for this information because it's all readily available there. And yet they're so afraid of how they'll look in these guys' eyes, or that there's going to be a witch hunt or worse, that I bet you they're going to give them volumes of information that they don't have to give, that is against the Constitution, that is outright illegal, because they're being cowed and forced into this.
No, you're dead right. And unless business stands up and defends itself, then Lenin was right. They're going to supply the rope with which they're hung.
That's very well put, Bill. Bill Wilson, American for Limited Government, speaks his mind. The insurance company should do what you're doing, Bill. All right, thank you very, very much.
Thanks, Neil.
Well, leaving